Hello, this is Karia again, and I have for you another review. This time I am reviewing the artist edition of the Secret Garden coloring book, which is one of the most famous coloring books there is. I think it's been translated into just about every language. So this is the original that I have reviewed in the past, and then the postcard book, which I also reviewed in the past. So, and then in the comments in the video description below, I'll give a link to those two previous reviews. So what this book is the art from the first book with the paper stock from this book. And this paper stock is like a light postcard stock as opposed to like a heavy artist stock. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing is that the artwork here is basically the same artwork that we have seen in those two previous iterations. And I want to show you, like when I mean it's the same artwork, I mean it's the same artwork, because I'm going to show you these. Hopefully I will have the space right here. Okay. So I'm going to show you that this art is the same as in the original book, which I completed, and then the same that is featured in the small postcard book. And some pages have been enlarged, but others have not, such as this page, which, like, I'm repeating that because it's kind of important to remember that you're getting the same artwork that you've had in this book. So that's, you know, that's maybe a plus, maybe a minus for you, depending on, you know, what you're expecting and what you're not expecting. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing to consider about this is I have this here on this page, and some people had a problem with the fact that the original book was not a white paper. It was more of like, you know, like a light beige color. So this book is in actual, like, it's white. It's not the crispest, the whitest white, but it's a fairly, you know, it's a fairly white. So that's something to keep in mind if that was one of the complaints that you had with the previous book. The main bonuses of this book, though, is that it is single-sided and that it uses that light postcard stock that we saw in the postcard book. As you can see, a handful of the pages have actually been enlarged. Like this page has been enlarged, and you'll know almost right away if it has or if it hasn't been enlarged by the amount of white space that you can see. All the white space at the bottom and at the top made up from the size difference between the two books when the drawings haven't been enlarged. You can see the real size difference between the two books. But if they use the same, you know, the same size artwork and they don't enlarge anything, then you get a bunch of white space. I personally am not a fan of the white space. I feel like it doesn't feel complete to me. So it would have been nice to see, for me, it would have been nice to see a little bit of additional artwork done here to give it this, to not have it look so like empty basically. So however, if you like drawing, then you know, you'll probably be able to draw something up and fill that space in yourself. Personally, for me, I'm not really, you know, all that talented an artist, so I'm not going to be drawing anything. So for me, this is gonna pretty much stay as white space. I may get like some rubber stamps or something, but it's basically gonna stay as white space. So that's one thing. The other thing that I personally was a little bit, I guess, surprised by is there's no new art here. There's not a line of new art here. So it's all the exact same art that you've had in the two previous books. So that's slightly disappointing. It would have been nice to see at least one picture done specifically for this book, for this large format book, but there's no new art here. So depending on how you see the world, that's either a positive or a negative. The other thing that is good about this book is that because it is that light postcard stock, it handles your Copic markers really well with only a slight bleed through. And if you know Copic markers, you know that bleed through is like a thing. So the fact that there's only a little bit of bleed through is really nice. You can use, was the Faber Castell Pit Artist Pen, and this was done with the Faber Castell watercolor pencil and the regular Faber Castell color pencil. For me, I had a lot of problems doing this with, since this is the same stock, this is what I tried to do with the watercolor, with the regular color pencil. And one thing that I like doing is I like doing a lot of layers, and then coming in with those layers, you know, very slowly building up over time. And both of these papers don't have the best tooth for me to do that. So I end up with a picture that's lighter than what I want it to be. Like I want the colors to be darker, and I end up not being able to get those dark, rich colors that I like with the colored pencil. So that's something to keep in mind. Like for example, with this purple, I did this purple, and then I went in with the blender pencil on top. And as you can see, it didn't really, you know, the blender pencil usually makes it a little bit darker, but in this case it didn't really, because there was so much pencil on top of the paper that isn't getting inside the tooth, so it's not gonna be as dark as what I like. So that's something to keep in mind. And then when I did the blender pencil, it actually ended up pulling up some of that color as opposed to getting it in there deeper. So that was slightly disappointing, but it does erase. You can see it does erase really nicely before you put in the blender pencil, but maybe it erases a little bit too nicely. Maybe it would be nice if the paper could handle color pencils a little bit better and be able to let me get a little bit darker with the color pencil, but that's just me. If you are using markers and you don't yet have this original book, or you have the original book and you're frustrated by the fact that it's essentially you're going to have to choose for every page whether or not to work on a page, because the markers will almost certainly bleed through with this book, then this is really a nice buy for you to get instead of the other book. Unless you are like a huge fan, I don't think you need to have both of them by any means. I think for most people, getting one or the other is gonna be the way to go. If you want to draw some of the pictures twice, you can Xerox them, or you can also just get the same edition twice, because to me this is money-wise, this not artist edition, the regular edition, is a better value, because I think you can get this in most places, you know, less than $15. In fact, $14.99 is the retail price for this book. And as long as the paper quality remains the same and they don't start changing the paper quality, you know, for most people, especially if you do color pencils, you might find that the regular edition is just fine and you don't need to spend an extra $7 to get the artist edition, because the pages are not, the other thing too is that the pages are not perforated. So for me, it's not impossible to get out a clean edge, because this is from the postcard book and I was able to get it out. But to me, it would have been a little bit easier if there had been some kind of perforation. But they made a choice to not do perforation and to instead do a sort of glued binding. And you have to be really careful when you're pulling that out, because you can damage the work as you're pulling it out. So that's more of a choice and not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but you know, it is what it is. So that's pretty much my thoughts on this book. That the art is the same as the other two books. The paper stock is the same as the postcard book. So whether or not you get this book is up to you. If you're using markers, this is definitely a better buy for you than if you're using color pencils, because for me, speaking for me, if I had to do this again as somebody who uses mainly color pencils, I would have saved myself a few bucks and just gotten another copy of the main book. because of the problems that I'm having with the tooth and not being able to get as dark as I want. And this was like, you know, this is a lot. This is like this is more like 8 or 9 layers. But normally I can get more layers in. With this, I could not get more layers in. So, you know, so to me, I would have preferred to, if I knew everything that I know now, I would have just gotten another copy of the main book, because it gives me the same amount of coloring, but it gives me more coloring because I'm using color pencils and I can do it double-sided. The other thing is, I'm more annoyed than I probably should be at the fact that there is no additional artwork. So this comes from a page in the book where she's drawn in some lines here and then told you to fill it in. To me, for this kind of a book, it would have been nice if there had been at least one page that was completely new and completely exclusive to the book. If they had done that, then I would have said this is just go out and get it, even with all the problems. But without any new and original artwork, and with it just being the same artwork that you may already have, if you have either one of these two, that you do already have if you have this book, then I think it's really, it's much more of a like marker person's book. So if you're a marker person, then I would totally go in this direction. This is a great way to use up those markers. If you are a color pencil book person, or if you are a watercolor pencil person, this is not required, and you will totally be fine with the book that you already have. So that's my, that's my personal opinion on this book. Whether or not to get this depends on what medium you mainly use. If you're mainly using color pencils, I personally would just get another copy of the regular book. If you're using markers, then this really is a good buy for you in that case, because this is a thicker stock. It's not the best stock in the world, but it is thicker and your markers will be fine. And even if they do bleed through, it's single-sided. So to me, this is more what the book should have been like in the beginning anyway. But anyway, that's my personal opinion on the matter. I would say that, this is my opinion. It's my 2 cents. So I'm sure that some people will disagree, and that's okay. And if you disagree, let me know in the comments. And if you agree, let me know in the comments. And let me know if there's anything else you want me to review and you want me to take a look at, or any other videos that you want me to put together, and I will do my best to get back to you. Also, subscribe to my channel and like the video if you like the video, because I will be doing giveaways. And I have some really, really fun giveaways planned that will be super exciting, and you will definitely want to be a subscriber so you can get the heads up of those giveaways when they are finally announced and when I finally have everything together. All right, thank you and have a great day. Bye.